Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. Going to give people a little time to get logged in / join us here. The training lasts about an hour and a half, give or take. It just depends on some load times. We do record these trainings, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's perfectly fine. You can just come back later as your schedule allows. That also allows you to share the link with other staff members who need to be system admins on your account. Just as a heads up, there'll be no training next week. That would be December 26th. But we'll be back on January, I believe that's 2nd, that following Tuesday. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about a feature as I go over them. And that is about it. So let's go ahead and get started. Here you see our dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. This is a page I do recommend bookmarking, so you can just get here quickly and easily. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. Right? First is your username. That's your email address. Should be in all lowercase letters. This would be the email address you use to sign up with us, or what your admin used to create your user. The password, that's case sensitive. Right? This you should have received via email. And then, whoops, the last piece is your account name. This is typically your company name or organization name. Now, if for some reason you can't get logged in, down here at the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, we have the Forgot Your Info link. You can click on that, flips the box around. Right, we still need the email address that you used to log in or that you signed up with us. And then one of the following 2, not both. Right, so either the account name, typically the easiest, or a phone number on the account. Right, this is one of your customer-facing phone numbers. Then you would click on reset password. That's going to send you an email with a reset password link. Right, you click on the link. That's going to temporarily log you into your user account page. Basically, it lets you go in to change your password. If you try to do anything else, it logs you back out. But once you do that, you can then enter that new password. You have the option to click on Remember Me, and then you can get signed in. So I'm using a test account. I log into this on a regular basis. So when I log in, it's taking me right to my dashboard page, right? Give me a quick snapshot of my account. If it's your first time logging in to the account, you're going to instead be taken to your user account page. Now, you can always get back to your user account page at any time by clicking on your name up here at the top center, just to the right of center actually. Click on your name there. It's a big pop-up, right? So, right, you can see your email address. This is where you would change your own password. Right, you can change the date and time display, etc. Now, as a system admin, you can also go over here to the account on the left. Right, so you can change like the technical contact, change the time zone for the entire account, as well as display language for everybody. Over here on the left, admins can also access the add-ons. So this will let you add additional features to your Dash account. Some of these could increase your bill. Some of them may be already included in your plan, depending on your plan. If you've been with us for a little while, you probably just got an email about additional add-ons. Things you can add on would be like the text forward feature here that's enabled. You can also do things like advanced reporting, among others. Next up, we have the billing portal. There's a link here that takes you actually to the billing portal where it asks you for your email address that you have associated as your billing contact. And then you can access things like your previous invoices or update your credit card. And then you have the option here to cancel the account. So any admin can cancel your account. So just be aware of that. When you go through this process through the website here, it's going to close by your next billing cycle date, right? So that way you're basically ending the current month, actually. When you're done here, click on the close box towards the top right, and now you'll be on the dashboard page. So up to the top, again, click in your name at any time, get back to that user account page. For most of us, to the right of our name, we have a D&D toggle, right? D&D standing for Do Not Disturb. You can click on this, and it mostly turn white, and that tells me that Do Not Disturb is on, meaning I am not accepting calls, right? Calls like someone dials my extension number, they're going sent straight to voicemail, right? So my phones won't ring. Then further over here, we have this little phone icon here. This opens up a new tab and takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. If you have a web phone device on your user, you can then log into this web page using your Dash login information. And on Chrome or Firefox, then you can use that browser to make and receive calls from that web page. It's a web phone. Just be aware of that. Then we have the little text bubbles here. This opens up a new tab and takes you to virtualtext.app. This is where you would log into the VirtualText application. It has its own separate login, so you could have, be very different from your Dash login. But that's how you would make use of SMS texting. Now, you may not have that feature enabled when you first sign up with us because you need to talk to our account services team. They need to talk to you about SMS registration and there's a fee associated with that. So they want to make sure you're aware of it before it's turned on. Little question mark icon here. This will open up a chat window so you can speak to a support representative. So they can walk you through setting up a particular feature or you can answer a question you may have. Then we got the 3 horizontal line icon here. This is the menu icon. This gets you to other Dash features. Now, the vast majority of our training will be on the dashboard. I mean, that's 95% of the training itself and what most people are going to make access. But we'll touch on these other topics as we go through. And then the little arrow to the right icon, that's to log out. Now here in the center, I have my total users, right? I have 6 people. That means I have 6 people who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, right? So the more users I have, the higher my bill is going to be. Then I have total devices. I have 11 on the account, spread out probably among my users. And then a little pie chart here giving a breakdown. So first up is cell phone. You can add cell phone or landline phone numbers as devices to your users, right? So we can direct calls to your cell phone number. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when we do that, you're not able to transfer that call to another staff member on your phone or on your system from your cell phone. Now, if you're using the soft phone application on your cell phone, then you can transfer. But if we're just sending the call to your cell phone number, you won't be able to transfer. Soft phone, right? Software application that acts as a phone, basically uses your internet connection to make and receive a call. So it's a VoIP phone. This particular bucket would include the VirtualPBX soft phone app or any third-party soft phone apps you're using. Then we have the web phone, right? This is that Chrome or Firefox on a computer device. The reason it's not bundled in with soft phone is that it was created separately at a different time. And then we have a SIP phone. This is a hardware VoIP phone. So piece of equipment, right? So phone sits on your desk, connects usually via Ethernet cable to get to your router, then to get out onto the internet. But beyond that, once it's programmed, it acts like a phone you probably grew up with, right? You pick it up, you dial a number, you make an outbound call. Down here, I've got unregistered devices. Then I have 2 of them, and that means I have turned them off on my dashboard. Right, so basically I'm temporarily not using them for whatever reasons. Then I have total numbers, 16, right? That means I have 16 phone numbers on my account that people can dial. Now, your account includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. It's going to vary depending on your plan. I am probably over that allotment, which means I'm paying an overage per number per month. Right? If you just sign it with a check on the back on the pricing page, it'll denote how many numbers are included and what the overage is per number. Now here, I have a breakdown first as assigned numbers and spare numbers. So assigned number is a number I'm using, right? So someone can dial a number that's assigned and expect to either speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or be sending a fax, right? Spare number means I'm not currently using it, right? So let's say I had a promotion running and that promotion ended, right? So let's say I had something specifically for Thanksgiving in the United States, or Black Friday, but I don't want it to have run all the way through Christmas time. So whenever I end that promotion, I can take that number out of service and put it as a spare number. So I'm not getting calls about something that's no longer valid, right? Likewise, it could be, oh, you're about to expand into a new ad or having a new storefront in a new city, right? It has a different area code. You can get that number ahead of time, right? Add it to your account so that way you can start producing the marketing materials for it. But you don't want it to actively ring anywhere yet because no one's there to answer the call at that location. Then I have USDID and US toll free. US toll free is actually US Canada toll free, right? It's an 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. USDID just means a US local phone number, right? So if you have a number in San Jose, California, USDID, just as if you had one in Dallas, Texas. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you'd like to add one, you want to email our porting team, and that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible and or if there's any additional documentation required. Right? Those documentation requirements come from the country in question. Conference bridges, I have 4. That means I have enabled the conference feature on 4 of my users, meaning I have 4 people who can moderate or host a conference. Now, over here towards the top right, we have my main number box where I have 3 numbers currently. These numbers behave in the same fashion, right? They're going to the same area of my system. They're going to all have the same main greeting, for instance. You can obviously have multiple main numbers. Then I have the conference room number. You can have multiple conference room numbers as well, if you're interested. But this is the phone number or phone numbers that everyone dials to join a conference, and that includes your staff members. And even with multiple conference room numbers, they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. The fax box number, this is your inbound fax number. You can have one main fax box number, and once you have one, you can edit the fax box to allow for outbound faxing if you're so inclined to do so. Then we have the company directory links here. There's 2 of them, a CSV and soft phone. If you download the CSV, it's just a CSV file. So use your favorite spreadsheet program, and it will display your staff members' names, their extension numbers, their email addresses, and their devices. But the soft phone link is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone. Right? So if you're using our soft phone app on your Mac or Windows PC, you can download this file and then upload it to your soft phone on your computer. It will then show as in your contacts your staff members as contacts in your soft phone app and the status of their VirtualPBX soft phones. Right, so that way you can tell if Bob is on a call. You're like, okay, well, I can't call him right now. I'll wait till he's off the phone. Now, if your staff members are using multiple types of devices, right? When you look at your soft phone contact list, you can only tell if they're making use of the VirtualPBX soft phone, not if they're on one of their other phones. VirtualPBX Store, this opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, and that's where you would order things like a physical VoIP phone. And then we have the account realm. Each account realm is unique to each account. This is used for a couple different things. First, it's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision a third-party soft phone application or device. And we'll cover that when we get to devices. The other thing it's used for is for sending out a fax. So once you set up your fax box to allow for outbound faxing, from that point on, to send a fax, you create an email. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number one, then the area code and phone number you're faxing to, and then after the @ symbol, you put in your account from. And then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Excuse me. Okay, we're gonna go back up to the top. So over here on the left where it says we have VirtualPBX and dashboard, we have these other tabs. These are the things we'll be covering shortly as part of the dashboard section of the training. Up here at the top where it says dashboard, then we have virtual or VPBX new hire sandbox. Then we have this caller ID button. I'm going to click on that. That expands out. This top pull down allows you to select any of your main numbers, and whichever number you select becomes your default number, right? So this 512 number I have selected here, by default, whenever my VoIP phones make an outbound call, they're going to display this 512 number as their outbound caller ID. Now I can switch that by selecting one of my other numbers, right? But basically you're only selecting one at a time. Then you've got the company call ID name field. In this box here to the right, you can enter text up to 15 characters. It counts spaces as part of the 15, as well as special characters, so be aware of that. But then you can enter whatever you want to be associated with your phone number. Then down here, the company emergency information, or E911. The system wants a North American address. So fill out the field. For our Canadian customers in the zip code, that is where you would put your postal code information. And for the state, put your 2-character province abbreviation here. And then click on Save Changes. Now, if you entered information here in the company caller ID name field, the system will transmit this information to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them about 3 business days to update their servers. And the ideal situation then is when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phones, right? This 512 number gets transmitted, and whatever text you put in this box also gets transmitted. Some caveats about the CNAME field. Calls, when you make an outbound call, right, and no matter what kind of device you use, it goes through multiple carriers before it reaches its destination. So for our purposes, when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phone, if one of those carriers between us and the destination carrier doesn't support CNAME, right, the caller ID name field, that information doesn't make it through to the final carrier, right? So only the number gets through. That's not something we can control. The most common thing that happens though is that destination carrier, right? That last carrier, they have final say about what shows up on the displays on the phones on their network. Ideally, they'd pass through the number and name information we send. Most commonly, especially with the mobile carriers, is they see the number and they pass that through, and that's it. They don't pass the name through at all, right? And in terms of the mobile carriers, they're the ones who put in like the spam risk or telemarketer kind of notation. And in rare cases, that final carrier, they can see that number, pass it through, and be passing it through, but also look up their own database and put whatever they have there instead of what we're sending. But that's not very common. Then we have this hold music button. So on Dash, you can upload your own media files. It will play back .wave and .mp3 files up to 1 megabyte in size. To have a longer duration file, we do recommend that you record in mono, not in stereo. And that way you can have like a 1 megabyte MP3 be about 5 minutes long. But after you click upload, you would click on browse to find the file on your device, click the up arrow icon, and then click on save changes. This pull down up here, this allows you to choose any files that you've already added to the account and make use of that instead. Now, ours is part of main number. However, especially for a new account, you don't want to go right to main number until you've set up destinations for calls to get to. So with that in mind, we're going to go over here to the left under where it says dashboard. We're going to go down to where it says users, a person with a desk icon here. And this shows my users on the account. Now, the people with the little blue suit icon, these are my system admins, right? So you obviously can have many system admins. The person with the gray icon, Dante, number 2, uh, he's a standard user. He's very limited access, right? So when Dante logs in, he can get to like his user portal, which allows him to check his voicemail, for instance. Uh, and if he's assigned to a queue, he can get to the ACD queue or the call center. But that's it. He can't make any of the changes we've been talking about already and going forward. Up here at the top is where you would add new users and you fill out the form, right? So the first name and last name, the system wants some sort of text. I've literally seen customers put A and then A as a placeholder. The email address used for login, this needs to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address among multiple staff members. This is also how the system communicates with your staff, right? So like voicemail notifications or password reset emails would go to this email address used for login. Password, this is where you create a password for the user. Main extension number, this is where you can enter an extension number for the user. Your first extension starts off with extension 1000, so the system would suggest that the next one be 1001, but you can enter in whatever you want to use for the extension number, right? So like if you have a different department or like a different division. Oops. Now by default, this system will create a voicemail box for the user automatically, right? This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user so that, say you create the user and you add a VoIP phone, it gets registered. They can pick up their VoIP phone and dial *98 and then click send or call. That's going to log them directly into this voicemail box you just created for them. The system will then walk them through creating their voicemail box PIN number and creating their voicemail box greeting. They'll also have the option to record their name, which is what the system uses for the Smart PBX directory. Right, so basically they'd be all set up. Here's your option to have that user be in the user directory. And just put a check mark here. You can always change this later. This third option here, send emails to an alternate address. So if you want the emails to go to a different address than the one that's being used to log in with, then you would put a check mark here and then put that different email address in the box provided. Again, this is something you can change at a later date. And then the fourth option here, I usually recommend putting a check mark here. This is send credentials to the user. Right? So once I click on create user, for example, this person gets an email to that email address used for login, welcoming them to the Dash account. It will provide their login information, right? So they can always log into the web page. And then you have create user and add another if you need to add multiple people. All right, once a user is created, you can click on their name, right? So if necessary here, you can change their name. Here's your option to change their credentials, right? So you can change their email address or change their password. And then right here, you have a link to send them the password reset email so they can change the password themselves. You can change their voicemail box PIN number here. Is enter in 4 digits and save changes. Here's your option to send emails to an alternate address. And here's the option to be in the user directory or not. Now, this pull down here, this allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin down to a user. Then the little clock icon, this allows you to change the time zone for the user. So that way like, their voicemail timestamps are correct. Little flag icon here, this allows you to change the display language for the user. You have English, French, German, or Russian to choose from. And then you have the ringing timeout. By default, it's 20 seconds, excuse me. That's plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you would want to increase this to about 30 seconds, maybe up to as much as 45. Extension box, you can have users have multiple extensions if you want them to. Right? For instance, like someone leaves the company, you can assign that that previous user's extension number to their manager, so that way they can make sure no messages are missed, kind of thing. Users can have their own phone numbers if you want them to. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you assign a phone number to a user or even a group, right, that phone number is available 24/7. It does not have hours of operation or holidays or anything of that nature. To add numbers, you have two options. All right, you have add from spare or by numbers. By numbers means you're adding new numbers to the account. Right? Adding from spare means you're making use of a number that you're not currently using, whether that's because you unassigned a number or you just had numbers that you weren't using, and you just said, oh, okay, we hired a new person, we can use this number that we haven't been using. So like if I don't want to have this 424 number on David any longer, right, I would click unassign here and then save changes. Right? So that 424 phone number is now a spare number, which I could use anywhere else on the account. Then I can come back here. If I click add from spare, so these are the numbers I could add back to his user, right? So we can add this 408 number, for instance. And then I would click on save changes. Now, if I want to add new numbers, then I click on by numbers. You have your option here for local or toll-free. Right? Toll-free is pretty easy. You find the toll-free prefix you want to work with. And hopefully this list will populate. There we go. Right, you can scroll down to see more numbers until you find one you like and click add. Now, once you click add, you haven't actually done anything, right? It's not reserving the number or anything of that nature. So at this point, you want to complete the process. Now, that could be you want to add some more numbers. You can do so. You can add as many numbers you want to this one location. But once you're done, you want to click on by numbers. Once you click on by numbers, now you're actually adding that number to the account. Right? Before then, anyone could have grabbed it or completed the process before you did. Right? And then click Save Changes. Now, local numbers, similar but slightly different. Right? You need to know the area code that you want to work with. So I do a search for area code 310. Any area code, and that includes toll-free prefixes, you can get this message saying, hey, there's nothing readily available. So then you'd want to use your favorite search engine and do a search, in this case, for area code 310 overlay. That would tell you 424. Do a search, and you see now that there's available numbers. Right? An overlay area code is basically two or more area codes that have the same geographic area. Right? So this is fairly common in big metropolitan areas. Oops, sorry about that. So like 310 and 424 are in around LA, right? And in case of an area like LA, you actually have a lot of area codes nearby, so you don't even have to do an overlay necessarily. You can just look at one next door to it if you want it. And then when you're done, you click on Save Changes. Now, you have a little gear icon next to these phone numbers. You have your options here for the first up is caller ID. So you can update the outbound caller ID name, right, up to 15 characters. And then you can turn on the ability for that phone number to accept inbound CNAM information, right? So it shows up on your staff members' phones. E911, each phone number you can assign a different E911 address to. This then allows you to assign that phone number to your VoIP phones specifically for 911 purposes only, right? So if I assign it to Bob's Yealing phone and he dials 911 from it, his specific address gets sent to emergency services versus the default account address, which might not be where he's at. Right? You want the correct address sent to emergency services. And then prepend, this is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' phones, right? So on their phone's display, they'll have, like, you can put the word direct, right? And then the person's phone number who's calling it. So they know, oh, they called my number directly. Right? And then save changes. Let's go down to Dante here. So here in the device box, this is where you would add devices to a user. Typically, most people start with new device. And the first up is SIP phone, right? So this is that piece of hardware. You have these manufacturers to choose from, right? Some have a lot of phone models. Some have about a dozen. Just find the make and model of the phone that you're working with. Give it a name, right? I usually say like the person's name and phone or the location in the office, like break room phone or warehouse phone. And then the MAC address. This is typically a sticker on the back of the phone. It's also, if the phone's plugged in, if you go under its status or basic settings, you can normally find the MAC address listed there. You would click on create device. This would disappear, and then you would click on save changes here. Now, at that point, you want to click on the device box again for the user and click on their device name here. Then you want to click on advanced and select miscellaneous. And where it says allow reprovision, you want to click on this unlock box here to the right. It will process, you'll get this little green banner message. Click on save changes and then click on save changes again. So now you've told the system, hey, we want to provision this phone. In terms of our dashboard, at that point, you're basically done. However, you're going to want to, you need to log into that phone's web user interface, right? The web UI. That typically means you get the IP address of the phone and enter that into your browser's address bar. Now that computer and that phone should be on the same network because normally that's a security measure of the phones. You log in and basically you get to the phone's auto provisioning section and give it a URL, telling the phone, hey, go get your config file here. For the specifics of that, if you go in the show notes, you'll see an auto provisioning phones link. That's going to have our support document about auto provisioning, which is going to have screenshots of these various manufacturers, the proper syntax for that URL, and in some cases, some additional settings just to verify that they match properly. All right. The next new device is cell phone. Cell phone and landline are basically the same, right? So you give it a name, right? Bob's phone, or in this case, Dante's phone. And then you put the number, right? +1 area, +1 area code and phone number, and then click on save changes, or sorry, click on create device, and then click on save changes. So if I click on Dante's device here, it should look like this. Notice I got the +1 area code and number here. If we go to the advanced options, this is the default setup for a new cell phone or landline on an account. So what happens, right? Call comes in, gets offered to Dante's cell phone. His phone rings. When he picks up, he's going to hear, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. Right? When he presses 1, that tells the system, yes, he's there. Yes, he wants to take the call. That's great if it's actually going to a person, right? Because a person can respond to it. However, let's say, for instance, you've contracted with another company to handle your calls outside of business hours, right? Your after hours calls. So they give you a phone number, say, hey, just send your calls to this phone number. We'll handle your after hours calls. You would add that phone number as a new device on your account, right? Probably associated to a user, maybe a group, up to you. However, an automated answering service cannot press 1 to accept a call. So you would come here to the advanced options of a device. And right here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you put a check mark here and then click on save changes. What this does is now when we send the call and we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? There's no message about this is a forwarded call. There's no need to press 1. Basically, we hear that pickup tone, connect. Now, if this is your actual cell phone that you put here, what can happen is your cell phone voicemail can pick up. That's still a pickup tone. So that inbound caller can end up on your personal cell phone's voicemail versus the VirtualPBX voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. Now, the other thing that could come up is this one here, the keep original caller ID. So what this means is, say customer Mary calls into the system, goes out to my cell phone, and that means on my cell phone's display, I see customer Mary's phone number. Now, if I don't recognize that number, I may let it go to voicemail because I've been getting too many robodialers. And that's probably going to get worse here in the US as we come up along election season. So what I can do is uncheck this, right? Click on Save Changes. So then when customer Mary calls me, or any customer, on my cell phone's display, I will see the number I've selected here. Right, so hopefully I would recognize my main company number, so then I'm more likely to answer it. Right. Next up, we have Softphone. Right, this is that software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. This warning message will always come up whenever you add a web phone or a soft phone. Something you should read at least once, just so you understand it. We'll go ahead and click close here. Then we'll get a big box showing up here shortly. Here we go. So this soft phone that we're adding by default is a third-party soft phone, meaning you're adding someone else's soft phone, not the VirtualPBX app. That's fine. You don't have to use our app. So you would give it a name. You'd want to copy the SIP username. Right? This is one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to program that other application. Then click on the SIP password box to see the SIP password. You want to copy this, right, and that's the second piece of information. Please do not change that. And then here's your account realm, right? So those are the 3 pieces of information you need to program that third-party soft phone to get it to work, right? And then you would click on Create Device and then Save Changes, and you'd be on your way. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, then down here below where it says View Configuration Guide, there's a toggle. It says Use Third-Party Application. You can click on this. So now it says Use VirtualPBX application. All that other information goes away, so you just need to put in a name for the device. You would then click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, Dante here gets an email saying his VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have his username and password he uses for the soft phone app, which is different from his Dash login. It's also going to have download links, right? So he can download the app to his cell phone or to his computer. You can use the same credentials on both a computer and your cell phone, just you can only be logged into one of them at a time, right? So if I'm at my computer, right, I'm logged into my soft phone on my Mac, for instance. If I know I'm going to be away from my computer, but I still want to take calls, I have to log out of the app on my computer and then log into it on my phone. And then the web phone, again, you get that warning message. This is, you just give it a name, you click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. So the web phone uses your Dash login information, so it has to be assigned to a user in order for it to work, right? The reason the VirtualPBX soft phone also has to be added here on the user is because we're sending that email to the user, right? So we have to know who we're sending it to for it in order for it to work. And that's why you don't want to try to add that on the Devices tab. All right, user features. First up is caller ID number. This is if you want the user to have a different outbound caller ID than the main number that we have set up on the account. So first they have to have a phone number assigned to them. Right, then you would click this on. So now, and you select the number on the user, then you click on Save Changes. So now whenever David makes an outbound call from his VoIP phone, it's going to be this 408 number that shows up as its outbound caller ID, not the 512 number that's set up under the main number. voicemail box, right? Every user you add has a voicemail box set up to them. And this is the default configuration. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they're full and cannot accept any more. And by default, you have 3 ways to listen to your messages, excuse me, but 2 ways to manage your messages. So the first way that you're listening to messages here, we're attaching messages to the email, right? So I get a message, I get an email saying you have a new voicemail message. In the body of the email, I have like the date, the time, and phone numbers involved, and the extension number they went to, or the voicemail box number they went to. And then I'll have an MP3 attachment, right? So I can just click on that, listen to the message. Now, in terms of managing the message, I have a couple options. One, from my VoIP phone, right? I can dial *98. That logs me into my voicemail box. I can listen to the messages over the phone that way, and I can also delete them over the phone. Now, from my cell phone, I can dial into my main number that goes to the auto attendant, right? So when I hear that main greeting play, I can hit *97, right? That tells the system, oh, someone wants to check voicemail. I need to enter my voicemail box number and then my voicemail box PIN number, but then I can listen to messages over the phone and delete them that way as well. And then the other option to listen to messages is under here under the menu icon. We go to the user portal. This takes me right to my voicemail tab, right? So I can play back the messages. I can download them. I click on the box in front of it. I can change its status. Now, you do have this option here to delete messages after notification. And what that means is when we sent that email, right, with the date, the time, and the voicemail attachment, once that email gets sent off, if you have this checked, the system then deletes that voicemail from the voicemail box, right? So then the voicemail box never becomes full. I personally don't like that just because it limits how you can check your voicemail, but sometimes some people just aren't good about it, so you don't have much of an option. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices, and this allows you as an admin to determine how those devices are going to ring. So you click here to enable, and first up, everything starts under as do not ring, right? Meaning you have to tell the system what devices you want to make use of. So then you uncheck the devices you want them to be ringing. You click and drag these out so they have a ring time. Now up here at the top are timestamps. The default's to 120 seconds, right? You can change that, increase it or decrease it depending on your needs. You can also click distribute here. So now it equalizes out between the two, right? So it's always going to ring the soft phone first here and then the web phone. Now, as you can see, I can click and drag these. And now if I click distribute again, now I change the order. So now it's ringing my web phone first and then my soft phone. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that if a user is part of a ring group, right, which we'll be getting to groups next, calls from the group that are offered to this user ignore the follow me setting, right? It's going to ring all of their devices. So something to keep in mind. Fax box. You can choose to have a user have their own fax box, and when you enable it, you have these options, right? You can use a spare number, buy a new number, or assign a new extension. I recommend making use of a new extension, of a new phone number. This allows the user to send and receive faxes without any kind of issue. If you choose an extension number, right, that saves you the potential cost of additional phone number. However, you're also limiting the user, right? So when you assign just an extension number to the fax box, they'll never be able to send a fax out. They'll only ever be able to receive because the system will use their fax box extension number and try to use that as the outbound caller ID, which will fail. And the other potential limitation is people may not be able to receive fax from everyone, right? So like at least the electronic fax services I've looked at, they don't have a provision for adding an extension number, right? They say, hey, enter the phone number and send. Even with analog fax machines, right, you would need a person know how to do that, right? Whether that's they listen in to the main greeting, enter the extension number, or they know like the key combination to add a pause and then send additional digits. Conference bridge, up here at the top is where you enable, right? That means this person can host or moderate a conference. And then you need to enter in a PIN number for them and then save changes. The user can change the PIN number on their user portal. The enable video conferencing would be for in-house use, right? So anyone from outside your organization, if they join a conference, they're not going to be able to make use of video. Call forwarding, you have off, on, or failover mode. Now, your staff can turn call forwarding off or on their own. They can either do it directly from their VoIP phone using feature codes, or they can do it via the user portal. Failover mode is something you would have to set up for them, and this is basically for VoIP phone users. Actually, call forwarding in general would be for VoIP phone users. But failover mode is if their VoIP phone goes offline, right, becomes unregistered for any reason, you can predetermine what phone number you're forwarding the call to if call happens to come in at that unregistered time, right? So you put on failover mode, you choose a mobile or desk phone here, and then enter +1 area code and phone number, click on save changes. Now, this user has multiple devices and I don't have follow me enabled, right? I left it disabled, which means when David gets a call, all three of his devices ring. And since one of them is a cell phone, I don't need to add call forwarding to his user because he's already forwarding, technically. Customized call recording. So your account includes some amount of data storage, which we probably use for call recording. To enable it, you click enable up here at the top. It starts off like this, meaning you're not actually recording anything yet. You need to tell the system what kind of calls you want to record. Right? Inbound internal would be, coworker calling me, right? So Dante calls me. I can choose to record it or I can choose not to. Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Likewise, outbound internal is I called customer Mary back. Right? And then here we've got outbound internal, means I called coworker Dante. So we often see something like this, right? The external ones being recorded or all four. Now, if you have heavy call volume and you're going to record every call, you're going to want to look or talk to our account services team about AWS integration. That would require that you set up your own AWS account with Amazon, but you can link that AWS account to your Dash account and then have your call recording stored there, right? Especially at heavy volumes, it's going to be more cost effective. Also for, I believe, insurance, Medicare or something like that, they require that you keep recordings for up to 10 years. That's also a better option with AWS. Music on hold, you can choose to have your users have their own hold music if you want them to, right? You would click up here to enable. You would upload a media file, right? .wav, .mp3, up to 1 megabyte. Find the file on your computer and then click the up arrow icon or use this pull downs to find a file that's already on the account and then save changes. For instance, if you want your sales staff to have a hold music that talks about, special promotions going on, that's how you would do that here, whereas everyone else has like a generic hold music. Do not disturb. This allows you to put a user on do not disturb, right? So like say a colleague had to leave because of a family emergency and you don't want their phones to be ringing because they're not there to pick up anyway, you can just put them on do not disturb or turn it off if they're back and can't figure out how to do so on their own. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature designed for like a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. Basically, people don't have a assigned desk that they sit at each day. So you click to enable. And then you enter a hot desk ID. I usually say match it to the user's extension number. That's usually easier for them to remember. Up to you if you want to require a PIN number. So what happens is I come into the office on a Tuesday. I sit down at desk number 2. I pick up the VoIP phone there. I hit *11. Right? That turns on hot desking on that phone. The system asks me for my hot desk ID. I enter that, and then it tells me calls will be sent to this device. Right? So the rest of my workday, any call that's going to my user, right, comes to that desk number 2 phone that I'm sitting at. End of my day, I pick up the phone. I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, let's say that's a Thursday. All right, Angela's at desk number 2. I say good morning. I sit down at desk number 5. Same thing, right? Pick up the phone, *11, enter hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to me at that phone. All right, next up we have groups. So groups are ring groups, hunt groups, basically departments of people who answer calls about a similar topic. Up here at the top, you click on add group. You need to give it a name and then an extension number. Then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be a part of the group. You click on create group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name here. Right, you can always change the name. Then you've got group call attempts. This is how many times the system is offering the calls to the member of the group. You can increase it on these little arrows here to the right or decrease it. You also have the option here to delete a group if you no longer need it. Other than that, you click on Save Changes. Now, if I click on the members box here, it shows me who's assigned to it, which currently there's no one here. So what I would want to do is we'll add people back to it. We'll remove this deleted user. And then I'm going to set this up as a ring all group here, or blast ringing. Let me click on Save Changes. Right. So now when a call comes into this group, all 3 of my users, right, their phones ring. Whoever answers it first gets the call. Now, it's possible, right, like if David and Taylor pick up a call at the same time, only one of them can actually get the call. So then let's say David gets dead air, right? Because Taylor got the call first for that split-second difference. In an office environment, that's probably easier for to pick up that, oh, my colleague got the call, not a big deal, no need to worry. In a remote working environment, that's a little harder, right? Unless you're using Slack or something to communicate that, hey, yes, I did get the call, etc. Otherwise, the system admin would have to check the call logs to see. Now, up here at the top, you got timestamps, right? It defaults to 120 seconds. You can change that to 60, or you can increase it if you need to. You can click distribute, right? So now it equalizes the calls out among the users. However, the groups never skip a user, right? So call comes in, it's always going to ring David first, right? So let's say David picks up, he answers, he's helping the customer. Second call comes in. And if David's still on that first call, he's still offered that call for 20 seconds. Right? So at worst, he hears a call waiting beep. He might not if he turned off call waiting on his phone. Right? But after that 20 seconds, then the call gets sent to Tante. Right? Now, if they're both on a call and that third call comes in, that third call has to wait for 40 seconds before it's offered to Taylor. Now, as an admin, you can click and drag so you can shorten those hold times. Right? If it's becoming a problem, then, right, or you don't like that kind of setup, you'd want to talk to the services team about upgrading to the call center. Groups aren't an included feature, right? There's no additional cost for them. The call center is, so something to be aware of there. Just like the follow me though, you can click and drag and change the order if you need to. Down here is where you add more users, and you click remove if you don't need a user there. Groups have at least one extension number, right? Because you need to add that when you created it, but you can add additional extension numbers if you need to. Groups can also have their own phone numbers, right? Buy new or add friend spare. Just like on users, a phone number on a group does not have hours of operation. All right, open 24/7. You've got the little gear icon so you can update the caller ID, E911, or prepend. We have a features box here. First up is ringback. So call comes into the group, rings your staff members' phones. That ringing sound is piped back to your inbound caller, right? That's the ringback. If you don't want that, instead you want a music file to play, right? You would enable the ringback feature, upload a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the system will not loop the file for you. So you want to make sure that the file length, right, how long it plays, matches the ring time you've set up for the group. The default for the group is 2 minutes. Next action, this to me is the most important group feature. So click here to enable, and if no one answers the call, where do you want to send it? You can have basically anything you've already created on the system, right? So your main back to your main menu, a specific user, a specific device, another group, a call queue if you're making use of them, etc., or voicemail box, which is the most common. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding, i.e., if they're primarily VoIP phone users and they might be away, like at a customer visit, then you might want to allow call forwarding so they can answer calls on their cell phone. Caller ID prepend. This allows you to enter either text or numbers that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones in front of the caller ID, right? To give your staff members a heads up about what a call might be about. And that is groups. So we have users and groups. And because we added devices to the users, we also have devices. So let's go over here to main number. So first up, you have your main company numbers. You can have multiple numbers here. Either add from spare or buy new. Right? Same process as under the users. The advantage of main numbers is they do have hours of operations and holidays. So something to be aware of. You do have a little gear icon here, so you update the caller ID, E911, or prepend for any of these numbers. And then you have the office hours strategy. You have 24-hour open office, right? So you're open 24/7. Or you have custom office hours, right? If you choose custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, you want to put a check mark in front of that day. And then set your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Also down here towards the bottom, you have the option to be closed at lunch every day at the same time. Just put a check mark here and then enter your lunch hours again in that 24-hour or military time, and then click on Save Changes. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark here. And then on the right here, you have this Add Holiday option. You have single day, date range, and advanced. So single day is like I have here for Christmas Day. You give the name, you choose the month and the date, click on Save Changes. Advanced is like I have here for holiday, or I'm sorry, this is date range. So you give it a name, a start date, and an end date, and then Save Changes. And then advanced is like I have here for Memorial Day, right? I gave it a name. I choose the month. I choose, in the second pull down, it's 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week, and then click on Save Changes. If you want to remove a holiday, click on the little trash icon and then Save Changes. There's no year indicator here, so just be aware of that. You probably have to adjust the date for each year. Probably wait a day or two after the particular holiday has changed before you change the date. Incoming call handling. So for my main numbers, right, there's 3 phone numbers I have up here. How do I want the system to handle calls during my open hours, during my after hours, or during the holidays? So open hours, I have calls coming here to my virtual receptionist. This is a link. When I click on it, it opens up this big old box. Over here on the left, this is my main menu. These are what people press on their phones to navigate through my phone system. I have this option here to add route. This gives me a new row. So this first pull down, uh, you have 0 through 9, plus the star key and the default action. The second pull down are things on your system, right? Users, groups, devices, voicemail boxes, etc. So choose where you want it to go. Over here on the right, we have first section here is greetings, right? This is where you say thank you for calling, right? Usually with your organization name. And then you want to give directions to your inbound caller, right? What should they press on their phones to navigate through the phone system? First up, you have text-to-speech. This is where you simply type in what you want the system to say. It reads it back to the inbound caller in a computerized or robotic voice. In this box here, you can enter up to 250 characters. It doesn't count spaces, but it is characters, not words, so something to be aware of. The other downside here is that it names the file for you. So this, for instance, if I completed a text-to-speech greeting here, it would be called main open hours menu TTS. And if I come back and change it, like let's say I forgot a menu option, so I just edit the whatever's text is written here, then I have two files called main open menus TTS. The TTS greeting is great if you're just starting out, right? You're not exactly sure how you want calls to route. You're not used to PBX systems, whatever the reason. They're free, right? There's no charge for it, so you might as well make use of it. I usually advise after you create a text-to-speech greeting, you click update, save, and save changes. On the left-hand side, there's the greetings tab, which we'll be getting to shortly. And you can rename the file so it's something you can recognize. You can upload your own file. You would just click on choose the file button, find a .wav or .mp3 file up to 1 megabyte, and then it will be your greeting. You can choose from an existing recording. Right, this pull down will show all your media files on the account: voicemail greetings, main greetings, ringback files. So that's why you want names that you can recognize easily. You can record over the phone. Now, when it says pick up a phone registers the account, that means pick up a VoIP phone. But then you would call your main number and then enter this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So this only works during my open hours. So if I called on Saturday, it wouldn't work. Now, let's say, for instance, when you signed up with us, you also ordered physical VoIP phones and you're waiting on them before you could, connect. They haven't arrived yet, but you want to record your greeting over the phone. You can still do that just under settings. And then here where it says allow outside recording, you can turn this on. This allows you to call into your system from, say, your cell phone or landline and still record over the phone. All right, so once that's on, you click save changes, you'd come back, call in to your main number, right? And then enter this PIN number, and then the system will walk you through recording over the phone. Now, if you have a greeting in place, which if you just signed up with us, you have at least one greeting in place, you're overwriting the content of the existing greeting, but that existing greetings file name will stay the same, right? So let's say you had main open hours menu TTS as your initial greeting. You decided you didn't like it, or your customers gave you feedback, and you're okay, let me just record it with my voice, right? So you call in, you hear that text-to-speech greeting, you enter in the PIN number, you walk through the recording a new greeting. Well, in the system, it'll still be called main open hours menu TTS, but the content will be with your voice, right? You can choose a professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. You have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly via credit card, and then they email the file to you. So then you would choose from upload your own files. and you're all set. All right, settings. First one here, number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times the inbound caller can make a mistake. Anywhere from 1 to 3 is typically enough. In this case, right, I have 1 selected, which means my inbound caller has 2 attempts. Right, they get 1 built-in attempt and then 1 retry, so 2 total attempts. Dialing timeout. This is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes someone's done. Right, i.e. they're about to enter a multi-digit extension number, so they enter 7 to start. The system's going to wait for a count of 5 in this case, and then assume, oh, I don't hear anything else. I'll check to see if there's a menu option 7 or if there's an extension number 7. If not, then it's going to play the greeting again because I have 1 retry attempt, right? So that person has a second attempt. Now, if they hit 7 a second time, then the system says we don't recognize your entry. And if there's a default action in that case, it would send the call here to my default action. If I remove that, on that second attempt, it would say we did not recognize your entry and then say goodbye and end the call. Allow dialing extensions by default. This is enabled, and this just means if the inbound caller enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call to that extension. Right? If I turn that off, that means my inbound caller can only press these menu options. If they enter an extension number, the system will treat it as an invalid option. Right. Suppress the playing of invalid entry. If you don't want that message to play about, we did not recognize your entry, then you would turn this on. Right? That turns on suppression. All right, so any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you want to click Save here. You'll be taken back to your incoming call handling, and you want to click Save Changes here. Clicking Save twice. All right, now, the second option here, call comes in, and you have a pull down. Now, typically, this is designed so you can send calls to a user or a group or even a call queue. Right, the idea is this is the live operator answer option. Right? So you're giving a staff member or multiple staff members a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then they get sent to the virtual receptionist. Because this is my after hours receptionist, I have different menu options and a different greeting in place. But beyond that, it's the same as we were just looking at. And then the holiday option here, in this case, I selected this third option here. This pull down, first pull down, right? You can select anything on the account, users, groups, call queues, etc., or even a media file. I chose the very last option, which is here, skip to voicemail, and then I'm sending calls to my main voicemail box, right? So during the holidays, I'm sending callers straight to voicemail. Main conference number, you can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. You can also have a custom conference greeting, however, it's text-to-speech, right? So type in up here. Even if I left this disabled, when you call your conference room number, it says welcome to the conference and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and PIN number. Main fax box number, you can only have the 1 main fax box number. That's why I don't have the options to add more. But once you do, you can click Edit Fax Box here. Inbound notification, designed to enter in an email address here. And anytime you get a inbound fax, this person gets an email saying, hey, you have a new fax, has the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and a PDF attachment. And so they get the fax. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, like say from their cell phone and then hangs up, David here gets an email saying, hey, you had an invalid fax attempt, or failed inbound fax attempt, excuse me. It'll have the date, the time, and phone numbers involved. Now, as possible in the caller ID information of that email, it will say wireless caller or wireless number. So that will let you know it was someone who misdialed. Beyond that, you'd want to check with the other party who's sending you a fax to let them know. The email permissions box here, designed to put in your company's email domain. This way, anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out on this account, even if they're not a user on this account. Right? They just need that proper format, that +1 area code and number, followed by the account realm, and then attach a PDF or TIFF file. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, so it's available on some plans, but not all. And auto attendance, a couple use cases. The first is submenuing, right? So if you want people to call your main number and then have the option to choose 1 for English and 2 for Spanish, like maybe 3 for Chinese or what have you, then you would come here under auto attendance and create an English and Spanish auto attendant, right? So then after that first option, they get to a second option, and then they're presented with a greeting in the appropriate language and menu options that go to people who speak that language. The other use case we see is people who have multiple businesses, right? They want them on the same account, but each business obviously has its own phone number and own main greeting. And you can still have calls answered by the same staff or even different staff if you want. So up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You need to give it a name. You need to give it an extension number, and then you click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, it starts off being unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, i.e. a separate business. Now, I can click here where it says unavailable in main menu, and now it becomes available in main menu, right? So now it's a menu option, right? So I can make it a menu option off of my virtual receptionist. I can make it a destination as the next action for my groups. Phone numbers, right? Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, which makes sense if they're a standalone business. You can add from spare or buy new. You've got the little gear icon here as well, so you can update E911 or prepend. Extension numbers. Auto attendants can have multiple extension numbers if you want to. Your customers probably will never know the extension numbers of your auto attendants. Your staff may need to just to transfer calls to the appropriate company or auto attendant. Little wrench icon here under settings will open up. Here you have hours, right? Open hours, after hours, holidays, right? This will match what we set up under main number, right? So any phone number on my auto attendants is going to have the same hours of operation as my main number. So if you have businesses that are 24/7 and other businesses that are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you'd want to talk to our account services team to find out the best option for you and whether if you can have them all of those on the same account or if you need to have multiple accounts. But beyond that, your routing options are the virtual receptionist for each of these time zones or time stamps, right? So you set up your menu options, your greetings, etc. You would click save and then save changes. The devices tab shows your devices on the account. A green device means it's registered, so we can send calls to it. Red means it's unregistered, so we can't. Right? We can try, but nothing's going to happen. And then black devices are the devices you've turned off up here under enable. You notice it's off. Now, you have a little wrench icon here. Audio for a physical device, you want the selected codecs to be G711A and G711U. The VirtualPBX softphone will automatically add Opus. That's all you need there as a codec. External caller ID, you can set up a specific phone number for this device to always use as outbound caller ID instead of the main number if you want to. The emergency caller ID, again, you can select a specific phone number that this device uses only for 911. And then it's displaying here the address that it would be sending to emergency services. Greetings tab shows all your media files on the account. Up here, you can add new ones, right? So you give it a name, find the file on your device. Oops. And then click on Create Greeting. It would then upload it to the system and it'll be available for you to assign elsewhere. Beyond that, you've got the name of the file, right? Source, text to speech, or TTS is text to speech, right? Upload is an uploaded file. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. You have the option here to play back a greeting directly here in your browser. If that doesn't work, or you just want to keep a copy of your greeting locally, you can click under here to download. This will download it to your device. This is especially, I usually recommend this to download your main or default greeting so you have a copy of it locally. That way, in case you have to make a change over the phone, you don't lose your original greeting that you have. You have the little wrench icon here under edit, so you can always change the name of a file as well as delete a greeting if it's no longer relevant. Numbers starts you off on numbers in use. This just shows you where your numbers are assigned. You got the little gear icon, so you can update the caller ID, E911, and prepend. The spare number tab, this is the numbers that you're not using. Any number that you're not using, you can then remove from your account. To do that, you would click on the little checkbox in front of the number. And then click on the delete option here. Confirm the deletion. Click continue, and now I have less phone numbers on my account. Right, by, I can choose local toll-free. That means I'm just adding some new spare numbers. Port starts the new port process, or basically that means you're moving a phone number from another carrier to us, right? So it's like, say, from AT&T to us. You give it a name. You choose local or toll-free. And then you would upload a PDF copy of your most recent bill. And basically, after that, you just fill out the form. Now, on the next, after that, uploading the bill, you'd enter the address information. I will ask you for a BTN, which is a billing telephone number. If you're only porting one number, just use the number you're porting as the BTN. If you have multiple, you want to double check that with your current carrier. PIN number. Some phone numbers require a PIN number to port out. That's typically, we see that with mobile carriers. So you'd want to double check with them to find out what the port out PIN number is. Generally speaking, toll-free ports take about a week, right? 3 to 5 business days, if everything's correct. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure we didn't have a typo anywhere or alternate information available. But once we've exhausted all that, then we let you know, hey, we're getting a rejection for this reason, which means you'd want to contact your current carrier to find out what the correct information is to port out. All right, voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Anything that has an entry here in the third column under user, right? That's a user created voicemail box, right? So it was created at the same time you created the user. You can create your own voicemail boxes up here at the top, give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number, and then click on create voicemail box, like I did here for support. The voicemail box number and PIN number, that's what you would need to check voicemail messages over the phone, as well as update the voicemail greeting over the phone. We'll go to advanced greeting media. Here you can upload a media file for use as a voicemail box greeting. Right, the pull down will show any. You can select an already existing file, right? So if you have a generic voicemail greeting file you want everyone to use, just upload it once and then you can select it here. Again, .wave, .mp3 up to 1 megabyte. The temporary, this is for the out of office or vacation message. If you have something selected in both media and temporary, only the temporary plays, right? The media file won't play again until you set temporary back to none. And then you would click on Save Changes. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? That email address used for login, that's a recipient. You can, but for any voicemail box, you can click here where it says add new recipient and then enter in an additional email address here. Keep clicking add until you're done and then click on save changes, right? And that means all of these people are getting in a copy of the voicemail message. So like if for some reason you're not getting your voicemail email notifications, put in an email address like at Yahoo or Gmail or whatnot and make a test, right? That'll let you know if there's something going on with your email address specifically or with the voicemail box. Options. So once you have a media file in place and a recipient in place, right here, then you can click on already set up. So that means that the voicemail box won't be changed over the phone. Right here, you want to make sure that the attached voicemail's email is enabled. If it's a busy voicemail box, you can also choose the delete after notification. So like this is my support voicemail box. I don't want this one to ever get full, right? Because that would make my customers nervous. So that's why I would choose delete on this one. Virtual text forward, this is an add-on. This allows you to have phone numbers accept inbound text messages and then relay them on. Now, this is not for two-way text communication. This is only to accept the inbound texting, right? So you click on add number here at the top. You choose a number on the account, and then you choose either to enter an email address or a webhook. Most people choose an email address because that's easy. The webhook would require webhook as a feature on your account, but that would be you're linking it to other software to handle the text message. And then you click on create virtual text forward. So all these numbers, if someone texts one of these numbers, right, these email addresses get an email saying, hey, you have a new text. Here's that text message. And then they can handle it from there. Call logs show your call history on the account. Right, you can choose today. You can go to this week, right? This month should be a little bit longer. Each one of these, you have the option here to download the file. It just downloads it as a CSV. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get some more information out of your call logs. If you click on a call, it will expand out and show you the other legs of the call. So if we go further back. So here you can see that this call was offered to this one device several times. Right, so yeah, after you click on the expansion, right, this first leg here, this is the call coming into the system, and then each one of these other legs is call going out from the system. You can click on the little fire extinguisher icon here. This will create an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It will have the technical details of the call. You will definitely want to type in the context, like why you're sending it in. We're not always going to recognize from the technical details about why you're sending a call in. The custom option here, you can change your date range, right? Go further back. The system will let you go back up to a year and download the data. If you need to go further back than that, you'd have to contact our support team. We have to make an escalation for the engineers, but the engineers can only go back up to a total of 18 months. And after that, the data is not available. Feature codes. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. This is a page also in our support pages. There's a link in the show notes. There's also the phone command cheat sheet, which has the feature codes, but this context help as well. All right, that was all the dashboard. So next up is blacklists. Blacklist allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're blocking from reaching your staff members. You click edit blacklist here on the right. If you don't have a blacklist, you would click add to create a new one. Otherwise, you can click on an existing list. Needs a name. And then you need to decide, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? By default, this is off. That just means if a call is coming into the system and it's not displaying its caller ID, with this off means they get through, right? If I turn this on, that means they get blocked. But beyond that, you click on add number, you put +1 area code and number, right? No spaces, dashes, or parentheses. Keep clicking add until you're done. So then once you're done, you click save here at the bottom right. Then you go back up to the top right where it says back to settings. Make sure your list is on the right-hand side under selected, right? So that might be, you have to click and drag to move it over. Even if it's already on the right, you want to click update here at the bottom right. Now, one thing to be aware of, numbers on the block list, they're going to show up in your call logs. It's just going to see call rejected. But after, they're not actually going to reach out to your staff members, but they need to be here on the right under selected. Call recording. So one of two things can happen. This is set up for AWS, so that's why it's showing it like this. If you're not using AWS, you're using the standard call recording, this will open up a new tab and take you to call recording or recordings.virtualpbx.com. It requires a login, which is just your dash login information. And there you would view your call recordings, you can play them back, etc. Here, for instance, let's go back. Right, this is accessing my AWS, so I can see my call recordings, I can play them back, I can download them. However, if I need to delete them, I actually have to log into my AWS account directly. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. This allows me to see the status of my staff members. Doesn't matter what device they're using. In fact, I can specify by either employees or by the device specifically, as well as see who's available and who's busy. Over here, right, active inbound calls, each of those would have their own box, and I would see who they're speaking to among my staff. Parked calls, if there's a call being parked, it would show up here with their caller ID and then their parking spot number here to the right. Reports, this opens up a new tab and takes you to advanced reporting. There's a link in the show notes for the advanced reporting demo. This allows you to create your own custom reports. It's a bit more versatile than the call logs. This is something you're interested in, first watch the video, but then you want to talk to our account services team about it, and or you can just choose to have the add-on and select it that way. But it's worth talking to account services in case it's more price advantageous to change plans versus the add-on. Voicemail tab, this takes you to, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the account, right? So you can see so like a voicemail box is getting full, right? You can come here, you can put a check mark in front of a message. Now you can move it to a different voicemail box, or as an admin, change its status, right? You can also play it back and download it. Integration AWS, this would need to be activated, but this is how you would link your Dash account to your AWS account. And if we click here, right, the access key, the bucket, and the secret access key are all things we would need to get from AWS that you would need to put here. And then you would click save. So then you can have these data points saved on your AWS account. Call center, this opens a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com, uses your Dash login. In the show notes, you want to look at the ACDQs Pro demo. That will show you a bit about what the ACDQs are about. Like if you ever called your bank and said, please wait for the next available agent, you've entered a call queue. Call queues will skip users who are already on a call, right? Unlike groups. Users can also choose to log in and out or mark themselves away, right? Which is not something they can do in the groups. There's also different routing options, right? You have like most idle, right? So whoever's been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call. Round robin to equalize out over time. You also, as a managers, can also eavesdrop in on a call, whisper to a staff member, or barge in if necessary. Dynamic caller ID, this is another plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So like this one here, I chose a number on my account, and I just simply said, whenever my staff members dial a 702 area code phone number, to change their outbound caller ID to the 702 number I selected on my account. Right, so it looks like a local call to whoever they're calling. The other option to do is create your own feature code. So if my staff members dial *951, then enter the area code and phone number they're reaching out to, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to the phone number I selected. Oops. All right. Faxes. This is your fax manager. So you can get to any fax box on the account. So here I can see my inbound faxes, right? The date, the time, phone numbers involved. I can download the file as well. Outbound faxes. You can choose your fax box. I can see the outbound faxes here. If there's a failure here, that means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. Right? Could be it was an invalid phone number, right? It could be something interrupted the transmission. Then we have the email to fax logs. When you have errors here, right, that means the system had a problem processing a request. We didn't even dial the other number yet. You want to click on the little eyeball icon here to the far right, and that will tell you the reason. In this case, this user didn't have a fax box. Now, that would be maybe the fax box wasn't set up properly, right? We often see sometimes like people use their personal email address instead of the work email address is one of the most common things we hear. Also, sometimes the system will have a problem processing the attachment. Usually that just means resave the file and then try again. Number manager, this just takes you to your spare numbers page. Webhooks, this is a plan-specific feature. This is programming. Basically, this allows you to link your Dash account to other software. If you go in the show notes, you can look at the introduction to Zapier webinar, which covers some of webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done to link Dash other software, like Slack, for instance. If you're interested in this, you actually want to talk to our sales team. They can give you some more information. SMS registration. This is dealing with texting. You'd want to read, so if you're interested in this, you'd want to read through it and then start the process here. But again, most people find it more advantageous to talk to our services team first and go over everything. And then lastly, the user portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. It starts you off on your voicemail tab so you can listen to your messages, download them, or change their status. Call history tab. You can see your call history. You can change the date range. Again, you can go back up to a year. Fax tab only works for users that have their own fax box, but then they can see their own fax history. Contact list tab shows everything on the Dash account, right? So other users, auto attended, etc., feature codes. So that way it's easier for your staff members to transfer calls, etc. Conference tab, only usable for users that you've enabled the conference bridge on. If you go over to the right, that's where they can adjust the moderator pin and the participant pin numbers. These should be different, just as a security precaution. Then your users can choose to have people join muted or deafened, as well as play entry or exit tones. While in a conference, they can be on this page. They can click on the little plus icon to invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock the conference so other people cannot join, mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the conference call. Also, while in a conference, each moderator and participant has their own little box. So you can mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. And then we have settings and devices right here. Put a check mark here. This is how your users enable call forwarding on their own. It is put the plus sign, number one, area code and phone number, and then click on save. So now I'm forwarding calls. Right? When I'm done, I uncheck the box and click save. All right, that's everything. And I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. Again, we won't be having a stream next Tuesday, so have a happy holiday season and hope you have a happy new year. We'll be back on the Tuesday after New Year's.